Imagine for a second what it takes to navigate a world that is just completely rewriting its own rules daily.
Right, it's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is. I mean, we are living in this era where the ground beneath our feet, especially with technology and artificial intelligence, is shifting constantly. The paradigms that govern business, science, even just our daily lives 5 years ago,
Hmm?
they are being completely upended.
Absolutely. And the question becomes, how do you not just survive in that kind of chaos, but actually thrive in it?
Exactly. How do you stay ahead of a game that literally keeps changing its own mechanics?
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We have a really specific mission today. We are going to analyze this fascinating framework from an article by Dr. Elhanan Gazit. It's titled, What Fei Lai Can Teach Us About Thriving in the Era of AI.
It's a fantastic piece. It really breaks down the abstract ideas of adapting to tech into something tangible. It does. We are going to explore the four core components of a concept called gameful intelligence. And we are doing it by looking directly at the career milestones of Dr. Fei Li. For anyone who might not know, she is widely recognized as the godmother of artificial intelligence.
Which is a heavy title, but completely earned.
Oh, absolutely. So, okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is gameful intelligence?
Right, so Gameful Intelligence, or GI, is basically a highly practical framework for navigating this exact era of technological disruption we are talking about. It's a four-core capabilities approach. Dr. Gazit designed it to help people and organizations master what he calls the AI-first world.
And the underlying philosophy is about treating these massive, complex challenges almost like a high-level strategy game, right?
Exactly. Because when you adopt that specific mindset, rapid change becomes a lot less paralyzing. You learn to adapt quickly, you deploy resources creatively, master your craft, and most importantly, you learn to anticipate or even redesign the rules of the game itself.
Which brings us back to Dr. Liar.
Yes. Dr. Fei Li is the perfect living model for this concept. Her career trajectory perfectly maps to these four capabilities. I mean, we're analyzing someone who went from a teenage immigrant folding shirts in a dry cleaner to fundamentally shaping the global infrastructure of modern technology.
That transition from folding shirts to shaping global tech, that is where this framework really grounds itself in reality for me. It brings us right into the first of the four core components of gameful intelligence, which is mega agency.
Mega agency. It's a great term.
It really is. Dr. Gazit defines it as the ability to quickly adapt to new environments and act as a catalyst for global change. To really grasp what that looks like in the real world, you have to look at Dr. Li's early life. She immigrated to New Jersey from China as a teenager.
Right, speaking very little English.
Barely any English, and she spent all her after-school hours helping her parents run their dry cleaning shop. You just have to consider the sheer cultural, linguistic, and financial shock of that situation. It's overwhelming.
And what is so fascinating here is how that specific type of adversity actually operates as a training ground.
A training ground, yes. Tell me more about that.
Well, think about the quintessential immigrant experience of starting over. You are dropped into this complex, totally unfamiliar system, and you have to figure out the unwritten rules just to survive. That builds a very specific, intense type of resilience.
But mega agency isn't just about grit, is it?
No, not at all. It's not just finding your own personal path to financial stability. Plenty of people adapt to a new country and build quiet, very successful lives. Mega agency requires a locus of control that scales outward.
It scales outward, okay.
Right. It's about developing a vision that extends far beyond yourself. Dr. Li didn't just assimilate into the American educational and economic system. She eventually leveraged her position to actively guide the development of artificial intelligence to benefit society as a whole.
She took the agency she built while figuring out a new language and running a dry cleaning business. And she applied that exact same proactive, rule-learning mindset to influence the entire globe.
Exactly. It completely reframes the concept of hardship.
It does. Instead of viewing early struggles as delays in your career, they are the exact mechanisms that build your capacity for mega agency. And I want you, the listener, to really consider your own dry cleaning shop moments. When you look back at the early challenges, the logistical nightmares, the weird setbacks you had to navigate in your own life, you might realize those weren't distractions from your real work.
They were the preparation.
Yes, they were the training environment for your ability to act as a catalyst in whatever projects you are tackling right now.
And that foundational resilience is a prerequisite for what comes next, because you cannot innovate at a global scale without an intense, almost obsessive dedication to the work itself. Which brings us to the second core component of gameful intelligence.
Artisanship.
Artisanship, yes. In this framework, artisanship is defined as the absolute mastery of one's craft, but combined with the willingness to ruthlessly question and rethink the foundational assumptions of your entire field.
And this is the exact point where Dr. Lee's academic journey takes a radical turn. She is a PhD student and later a professor at Stanford, and she's deeply involved in the field of computer vision. Now, at the time, the prevailing approach to teaching computers how to identify objects was highly symbolic. It was all rule-based.
Right. Engineers were basically trying to hand code edge detection and shape recognition.
Exactly. It was a very manual, brittle process. And Dr. Lee looks at this routine progress and asks this massive paradigm-shifting question. She asks, if machines are to see the world, why not give them extensive visual experiences, just like humans do?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to understand just how contrarian that question was at the time. The artificial intelligence community in the early 2000s was largely focused on writing more elegant, clever algorithms.
Right, the code was everything.
The code was king. The idea of brute forcing the problem with massive amounts of data was often viewed as inelegant. Some people thought it was a total waste of time.
It's like trying to teach someone what a cat is by giving them a dictionary definition. Pointy ears, whiskers, 4 legs, tail.
Exactly. A human child doesn't learn to recognize a cat because someone handed them a mathematical formula for whiskers. A child learns because their eyes take in millions of high-dimensional images of the real world, constantly adjusting their neural pathways.
Yeah.
She hypothesized that algorithms needed that exact same volume of experience.
So she just stops trying to hand code the rules of vision and decides to build the experience engine instead. And the result of that was ImageNet. She and her collaborators set out to build this meticulously organized dataset containing over 14 million images, all mapped out across tens of thousands of categories.
Which was an agonizingly difficult process.
Yeah.
In compiling, sorting, and accurately labeling 14 million images before the existence of modern automated tools. It was a staggering logistical challenge. It took years of rigorous, unglamorous work.
And then academic community was highly skeptical, right?
Yeah? Oh, very skeptical. They were wondering why a brilliant researcher was spending her time acting as an archivist rather than an algorithm designer. But that right there is the essence of artisanship. She had the mastery to understand what the field actually needed and the true dedication to build it when literally no one else would.
And that artisanship set the stage for the massive breakthrough in 2012. An algorithm called AlexNet, which was a deep convolutional neural network, was trained on her ImageNet dataset. The results were debuted at a major computer vision competition. And this is huge. The top 5 image classification error rates plummeted from 26% down to 16%.
That moment changed everything.
But let me jump in here, because to someone outside the tech world, dropping an error rate from 26 to 16% doesn't necessarily sound like a revolution. It sounds like an incremental software update you get on your phone. Why was that specific 10% drop considered the literal spark for the modern AI boom?
It is a great question, and context is everything here. In the years prior to 2012, progress in computer vision had completely stalled out. Error rates were hovering in the mid-20s, which practically meant the algorithms were wrong a quarter of the time.
Which is useless.
Completely useless. If an autonomous vehicle or a medical imaging tool is wrong 25% of the time, it is commercially and practically a liability, just a novelty. So the drop to 16% didn't just break a long-standing plateau. It proved a fundamental theory.
That the neural networks actually worked?
Yes. It proved that deep neural networks, which had been theorized for decades but largely abandoned because they didn't work on small data sets, were actually the correct architecture. They just needed the scale of data that ImageNet provided.
The fuel for the engine.
Exactly. That 10% drop crossed the threshold of utility. It signaled to every tech company and university in the world that if you feed these neural networks enough data, they will learn. Without her artisanship in building ImageNet, the explosive advances we see today in facial recognition, medical diagnostics, autonomous systems, all of it would have been delayed by years, if not decades.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because that specific realization about prioritizing data over algorithms transitions us directly into the third core component of gameful intelligence, Juloot.
Juloot.
Yes, Juloot. It's a highly specific term in Dr. Gazit's framework. It is the capability to read and redesign the rules of the game itself. It is all about spotting shifts in the environment before they happen and turning disruption into a systemic advantage.
And Dr. Lee's work with ImageNet is the ultimate expression of Juloot. Think about the landscape she was operating in. The accepted game of AI research was a competition to see who could write the most sophisticated code.
Like we said, the algorithm was king.
Right. But Dr. Lees looked at the board, analyzed the mechanics of how the game was being played, and realized the rules themselves were fundamentally flawed. By shifting the entire focus of the scientific community to massive labeled datasets, she didn't just play the existing game better than her peers.
She forced everyone to play a completely new game entirely.
Exactly. She changed the paradigm.
It requires an unbelievable amount of confidence to just abandon the prevailing methodology of your entire field. She basically recognized that the best algorithm in the world is an empty engine without the fuel of massive data. She reshaped the underlying infrastructure of the industry. But, when you redesign the rules of a global game, you inherit a massive amount of responsibility for how that game is played going forward.
Which raises a very critical vulnerability that Dr. Lee spotted very early in this new data-centric paradigm. If data is the fuel that powers AI, then the quality, the diversity, and the origins of that data dictate how the AI will behave.
The bias problem.
The bias problem, yes. Because AI datasets reflect the biases of the human beings who compile them, there is a dangerous potential for these systems to scale human prejudice at an unprecedented rate. If the engineers feeding the images and making the classifications all share the exact same blind spots or come from the same narrow demographic background, the resulting AI will inevitably fail marginalized groups.
Which brings us perfectly to the fourth core component of gameful intelligence: co-creativity and creation. This component focuses on deploying resources creatively, but crucially, it emphasizes building an inclusive community around what you create. It is the deep understanding that true intelligence in a complex system requires diverse inputs.
She consistently warned the scientific and business communities about this. She said we must interrogate our data sources for hidden assumptions and misrepresented groups before we deploy these models into the real world. But as with her approach to ImageNet, she didn't just publish papers complaining about the problem. She engineered a structural solution.
She founded AI4AL. It's a nonprofit organization specifically designed to introduce high school students, particularly girls and underrepresented minorities, to artificial intelligence through specialized camps, mentoring, and early research opportunities.
The impact metrics on this initiative are just incredible.
They really are. Since its inception in 2017, AI4AL has reached thousands of students across the country, and over 80% of those participants identify as women or students of color. She is actively constructing a diverse creator community from the ground up. She's ensuring that the next generation of AI architects actually reflects the population the technology will serve.
To fully appreciate the scope of this co-creativity, it is really worth looking at her 2018 testimony before the U.S. House of Representatives. She stated on the congressional record, "As a scientist, I firmly believe that AI must develop under human guidance and oversight, with fairness, transparency, and accountability as guiding principles."
That is the ultimate expression of co-creativity right there.
It is. It moves beyond simply building an impressive piece of technology in a siloed laboratory. It is a massive commitment to nurturing openness and inclusion at a systemic level, ensuring that the future rules of the game are authored collectively.
So what does this all mean? When we take Dr. Gazit's framework mega-agency, artisanship, Juloot, and co-creativity and apply it to a real career, how do we actually quantify that success?
Well, Dr. Gazit actually used his Dr. GIA AI assistant to run a measurable assessment of Fei Li's career against these four exact metrics. And the results are genuinely striking.
Let's hear the numbers.
They are deeply revealing. When the Dr. GIA assessment plots her career milestones on a spider chart, the result is this nearly perfect, highly symmetrical shape. She scored 95% in mega agency. She scored 90% in co-creativity and creation. She had a staggering 97% in artisanship and a 95% in Juloot.
Achieving a 97% in artisanship is just phenomenal. When you think about what that means in a daily professional context, it represents a relentless, almost obsessive dedication to the fundamental truths of a discipline. It is the willingness to sit there and sort millions of images when the rest of the world is telling you to just write better code.
And that is exactly why these percentages are so much more than dry data points. They quantify a legendary multi-decade journey. They trace a path that began with a teenager learning English in a New Jersey laundry and culminated in a scientist diversifying the entire global landscape of artificial intelligence.
It's a very rare blend of bold, catalyst-level leadership and inventive, rigorous rule bending. Because of this unparalleled combination of capabilities, Dr. Gazit's framework recognizes her as an honorable living model for the Gameful Intelligence Hall of Fame.
And the Hall of Fame concept is such a great way to anchor these ideas. It highlights the individuals, the teams, and the organizations that demonstrate exceptional levels of these four capabilities. The ones who reach a professional peak, but continuously adapt and redesign their strategies in the face of an AI-first world.
Dr. Lai is the absolute blueprint for this kind of sustainable, adaptive success. But the core message of this deep dive, and really of Dr. Gazit's work, is that this framework isn't reserved exclusively for historical tech icons. Gameful Intelligence is a toolkit that you can actively develop.
Exactly. The intention is for you to map your own trajectory against these capabilities.
And to do that, to help you measure your own gameful intelligence right now, we have 3 practical analogies you can use immediately after listening. Let's call them the 3 GI tests.
I love this. Let's hear them.
First, the dry cleaner test. This measures your mega agency. Look at your biggest current headache or obstacle at work or in life. Are you just trying to survive it? Or are you actively using it as a training ground to build skills for a global impact? Are you the thermometer just reading the temperature or the thermostat setting it?
That's a great check. The second one would be the dictionary versus vision test. This is for artisanship. Are you just memorizing the accepted rules and recipes of your field, or are you doing the grueling foundational work to understand the raw materials yourself? Are you buying prefab walls or pouring the foundation?
Perfect. And the third is the board game test, measuring Juloot and co-creativity. When your industry changes, are you just trying to roll the dice better than everyone else, or are you actually redesigning the rule book and inviting completely new players to the table to build something better?
Those are powerful questions to ask yourself. If this breakdown of gameful intelligence resonates with you, we highly encourage you to explore the source material further.
You definitely should read the GI Manifesto to gain a much deeper understanding of the philosophy behind this framework. And more importantly, you can actually check your own exact GI level using the Dr. GIA AI Agent Assessment. It is a powerful way to see what your own spider chart looks like today.
And if you know a person, a startup team, or an entire organization whose journey reflects these capabilities, you are encouraged to nominate them for the GI Hall of Fame. We wanted to see this community of gameful thinkers continue to expand.
Before we close out this analysis, there is one final, somewhat provocative implication of this framework that we really should consider. We have spent this time discussing how a brilliant human creator utilized her mega agency and Juloot to rewrite the fundamental rules of artificial intelligence. She dictated that data, not just code, would be the new foundation.
But as we look at the current frontier, AI systems are becoming increasingly capable of autonomously generating their own synthetic training data. They're even writing and optimizing their own code.
Right. So the question becomes, who holds the Juloot in the next generation of technology? Will it still be the human architect guiding the system, or will the AI itself begin to redesign the rules of the game we are all playing?
That is a brilliant, slightly unsettling question to walk away with. The dynamics of the game are shifting faster than ever.
They really are. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into gameful intelligence and the phenomenal world-shaping legacy of Dr. Fei-Fei Lei. The meaning of intelligence is changing, and that's your chance to grow with it. Subscribe to Dr. Elhanan Gazit's Gameful Intelligence newsletter, your practical guide to mastering the AI-first world. It's for founders, leaders, educators, creators, and curious minds who want to ride the AI wave, not get swept away. Each issue brings real stories, quick plays you can apply instantly, and early access to tools like Dr. EGA, your AI companion for exploring your own gameful intelligence. If you'd like to be featured or contribute as a guest author or podcast participant, visit Juloot.com or connect with Dr. Gazit on LinkedIn. Join the growing gameful intelligence community, and remember, keep your curiosity high and mega play your life.